Boom. All right, we are back, y'all, for another one of the Alpha G Meeting of the Minds. I got my friend Fleming here.
Yes,
What up?
sir.
What up, sir? How you doing?
Chilling. I'm chilling, man. You know what I'm saying? It's 10 o'clock up over here on the East Coast, and I'm just I'm woke. Like
Literally,
I don't
man.
even feel sleepy, you know what I'm saying? So yeah.
I literally thought that you were on the West Coast. I've been talking to so many people. Oh, this is another person that I met through the wonderful, wonderful Clubhouse app.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it continues to keep growing and building more and more as I'm on there, making wonderful, great connections. So, like I said, for me, the whole main purpose of just doing the podcast, vlog, whatever you want to call it, is just to capture men having good dialogue. A lot
Absolutely.
of times people don't see men having good dialogue if it's not, cussing somebody out. It's talking about sports. It's
Right.
like, it doesn't happen. And with the
Because,
with the club.
like yeah, we got other stuff to talk about,
Yes, sir. We
Yeah,
definitely got a lot to talk about. And
right.
with the clubhouse and other things that are going on, they're not documented. You know what I'm
True.
saying? It's like, man,
Yeah.
I was on here talking to these brothers, 4 or 5 brothers from around the world. Okay, can I hear it? Oh, I mean, it wasn't recorded, and it was on like an app, and you know,
Yeah, so the funny thing about that is that
yes, sir.
um I think the cool thing about that is that there's a term as far as griots, right? Like so we get the information, and then it's our job to basically take that information that was shared with us, and now we be the verbalizers of that information, and bring it out into the communities and stretch it out there. So but at the same time, it's 2021 and we live in the era and day of record everything, so if you're not recording or not captioning it, then it didn't happen, but
Exactly.
at the same time, I think power to you on props to you on doing something of this nature.
Yeah.
I've jumped into a few podcast rooms on Clubhouse, and just the one thing that I've definitely have learned in doing this, even we're literally getting ready to launch season 2 of our podcast.
Okay.
It's just everybody got a story.
Yes, sir.
Everyone has a story, and we no longer have to wait for trying to pitch it to somebody to validate that our story matters. You know,
Exactly. I
yeah,
definitely
we have
agree.
avenues to where we can definitely take it and be like, hey, like, look, this is my story. If you connect with it, then you definitely connect with it, and we can make it happen. So, yeah.
I
So
agree. So
this,
Fleming, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you got going on, man.
oh
I got
man,
the bio and I got it here. It pulled up. You frizzy from Baton Rouge, but you're
yeah,
raised out there in Oakland.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right, exactly. Yay! So, Oakland is home. That's I was born in Baton Rouge.
Right.
Literally, I was there for all of about a month. My mother, unfortunately, I was an emergency C-section. My mother went into a coma.
Wow.
Afterward, my father was nervous as all get out because he thought he might lose his wife and gain a child in the process and be a single dad. But thankfully, she came out of it.
Right.
And then my parents ended up getting a divorce, which is crazy. Even after going through something like that, but shit happens. And
Yes, it
so,
is.
my parents got divorced by the time I was 3, and my mother, I was 4.5 actually. And next thing I know, I'm on an Amtrak train and pulling up into a station that doesn't even exist anymore. you know.
Okay.
And so yeah, so I got to Cali when I was like 5.5, 4.5 going on 5,
Right.
and that's home, man. Like I didn't leave until I was 22. And after that I bounced around a little bit. I moved to Philly for 2 years.
Okay.
After that I bounced. I was in Arizona for 2 years. Finished up, got my degree there, and I got a phone call and it was like, hey, what do you think of Maryland? And I was just like, I mean, I've been on the East Coast, like, but the job opportunities that were out here
Right.
um, were definitely just on point. And so I moved out this way, and then I ended up working at the United States Mint, doing graphic design. I think
Okay.
yeah. So formerly my degree is in visual communications and graphic design. So and I've had the joy of doing that, and it's a pleasure. I'm an artist by nature, and that's been pretty much it. But I'm a father of one. I got a 15-year-old son, and
Okay.
I did a I did a road trip with him in 2018. We did a road trip,
Okay.
and 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 it was cool. I'm sorry, no, it was 2019 that we did the road trip. I'm sorry, it was 2019 we did the road trip. 2018 was when I started planning it, and we drove all the way from Silver Spring, Maryland, all the way to Oakland, California. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And so I put the whole thing on my social media accounts, and honestly, a lot, the feedback that I got from like people followed it, and were like amazed. And I had brothers that were reached because I'm a member of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity. So, and it just happened to be our conclave that year in Vegas, which was one of the stops. And I just had a bunch of brothers that was just like, yo, like we didn't know this was one of your stops. Like, man, we thought you was crazy as shit to be driving cross country by yourself, but it's like, you and your son. But it's just like this amazing journey. And it was like, a bunch of other fathers that really had never stopped to really think about taking such a time like that. Like, I think we think when, we say trips or something of that nature, it's like, do something like pay for a plane, go somewhere, hotel, like, the
Right.
whole shebang. But in this, it was just, quality time. It was just quality time between me and him, between father and
That's
son.
super dope, man.
Right. And so as we were driving, I left there, and I'd been wanting to do a podcast for a minute, man. But like, there's so many things that you do in life to where I was like, okay, I don't really know what it is I wanted to do it about. But
Hmm.
I love being a dad. That's
Right.
my joy, man. You know what I'm saying? And driving across state to California, man, I like all of a sudden Father Should just popped up in my head, and I was like, oh, let me write that down. Um, but I still wasn't convinced. I was not convinced, and I held on to it for a minute, and then I got back. Um, I got back to Maryland, and one of my frat brothers, I went to a happy hour. It was like a networking happy hour. Like the day I got back, like I got back that morning, dropped my son off, went to work, happy hour. So,
Okay.
and he just grabbed me and was just like come here, and I was like, hey, it's not my fault, I ain't do it. What like we got a problem? And
Hmm.
he was like, nah. And he said, man, he said, look here, he said, two things I know. He said, one, no one will ever question how much you love your son, ever,
Right.
in doing. He's like, watching what you did. He said, and then second, he said, man, I literally lived vicariously through you, because it was something that I wish that I would have had the opportunity to do with my father before he passed. And
Wow.
it was in that conversation that I literally was just like, wow, like, okay, I gotta put this podcast together, man. Like, and I just gave him a hug and I said, thank you. And he was like, for what? I said, honestly, you just confirmed for me that I need to go ahead and do this. I consider myself such an introvert, man. Like, doing a podcast, as I'm sure clearly puts you in the front seat, you know, like
Yes.
like you're out there, and it became a journey, and I looked online, and websites that have you thinking like, all it takes is a simple, mic, plug it up, start recording, good to go.
Right.
But I will say it really depends on what your purpose is. You know,
Hmm.
what is it you're trying to do with it? If you're just trying to have fun with it, then sure, you can do that. But if
Right.
you're really trying to produce change, or be a voice in the community about a topic, about an issue, then it requires more. It requires your time. It requires your time, your effort from the marketing aspect to really make it in this day, because definitely a saturated market.
Really?
Um, yeah, you realize.
Oh wow. I mean,
you know,
I understand. Let me go back here. Are you talking about just podcasting or
podcast,
fat?
no,
Oh, okay, okay,
podcasting, yes, is
okay,
definitely
okay, okay.
it's definitely a
Yes,
saturated.
yes, yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
But what you choose to talk about, and what you decide on is just like, we started talking about, name of our podcast called Father Should, and I got a co-host who is awesome as all get out. That's my homie. That's my chin checker, who will not let me go astray too far. But like I said, when I first started it, I was like, okay, well, cool. I could do this, get the equipment, and we could launch by September, right around my birthday. And she was like, nope. I was like, okay. And we literally just like it kept getting pushed out because the reality is once I sat down and really started mapping it out, I knew that how much I wanted it to be as perfect as it possibly could be, you
Right.
know. Because we were talking about fatherhood, you know, and I wanted to start having that dialogue between, you know, myself, a older father, and someone who was younger, right? You know, because that's that generational gap, you know, and I firmly believe that there are certain things that you know how our parents raised us. Some of that equates to today, you know,
Yeah, of course.
and
Yes,
then
sir.
there's and some of it doesn't, you know,
Yes, it does.
some of it doesn't, right? And you know, so that I always wanted to have that conversation, and you know, honestly, I didn't. It was unbeknownst to me where it is that this journey would take me, you know. And we had a conversation where we had one episode. I think it's our 10th episode from season one, and it was simply titled "The I in co-parenting is insignificant," you know. And
Okay.
I've been co-parenting for 15 years, and brother, when I tell you the response from that,
Hmm.
it shifted everything, you know, like it shifted everything, and I was just like, okay, clearly we need to focus on this, you know,
Right.
how to go about making the communication between two parents, you know, better, because society will have you thinking that, you know, that it's impossible, that it can't be done, you know,
Right.
that it's single moms and horrible dads, you know,
Hmm.
and that's not the case, you
Right.
know, not the case. And I got like I tell people like, look, I'm in a co-parenting situation. It's not the best, but it's not the worst either, you know. And last night we had our first room on Clubhouse, you know, talking about it. And we're gonna start doing having these conversations weekly, you know, in
Okay.
addition to the podcast once we launch that. So our conversations on Clubhouse will be on Tuesdays at 7:30, and then Thursday we always drop, you know, our episodes on Thursdays.
Dope.
So
Yeah,
that's
I popped in for a little bit.
yeah,
Popped in for a little
appreciate
bit.
that. Appreciate that. So yeah, so that has honestly, man, become such a purpose for me. You know, like when they say a purpose driven life, like that has become a purpose for me, to the point of where the plan is to basically springboard the podcast actually into a 501c3, a nonprofit, and actually put the focus on how to go about, you know, especially in the black community, how to go about making our relationships. Like I realize I want to. The goal is to basically like, how do we resolve this without going to court? You know,
Right.
because once you go to court, like it gets ugly, and we are around people that are geared to win. You know, one
Right.
of our speakers last night said is like, you know, when you get a lawyer, lawyers are designed to win, which
Hmm.
means now we're in a battle. You know, we're in a
Right.
battle situation to where honestly we should simply be just two adults in the situation and put the focus on our children, you know, and making sure that they're good, that they're healthy, you know,
Yes,
and
sir.
cut out all the unnecessary bickering and babbling and BS, you know. But people's feelings get involved, or egos get involved, or someone's hurt, or you know, unmet expectations, you know, or unspoken expectations, you know, and that
Right.
becomes, and that becomes the area that we have to deal with, you know. And thankfully, we actually had two ladies that stepped onto the stage last night that literally resolved their stuff without going to court.
Yeah,
So
I heard that. I heard
yeah,
one woman talked about that. She said, "Hey, when it was done, she said it was done. He picks him up on these days. I pick him up on that days.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. You know, so I mean, and honestly, you know, that was both me and my co-host. You know, we was like, okay, cool. We both hit her up like, hey, we need you to come back like next week. You know, because obviously it's something that's doable. You know, if
yeah.
you've done it. You know, so that's pretty much me, man. I mean, that's what's going on above on this end. You know,
Okay,
so
hold on one second.
yeah.
Messing up my podcast right now. He jumped over here, set up my whole live. Jeez, computer went down, everything. All right, cool, man. That's dope. Yeah, I appreciate you for definitely doing that. 'Cause a lot of people don't really talk about that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
When especially for man, just looking up. When I started my journey, just trying to be a better, I'm a dad now. I'm a young dad, trying to
Okay.
figure stuff out, and it's just like, where do I go now? Like, okay, I know that there's all these videos about how to get women, how to get your numbers up,
Right.
but ain't no videos about how to be a dad.
Right.
You
Right.
know what I'm
Right.
saying? Coming from that transition and stuff like that. So I started with this one group called Fathers Matter, right? So my friend was
Hmm.
doing it, and so I would
Okay.
started tuning in, going there every Saturday morning, and then from there I was, like, okay, this is where I need to be at, because I'm a dad now. And they're talking about manhood and fatherhood, and I never had my father in my life, so it's just important for me to get that clarity, understanding. So I started
Hmm.
going, and I started going faithfully every week.
Okay.
Getting information, learning about relationships, because I
Hmm.
never really had a real relationship. Now we're
Okay.
living
Right.
together,
Okay.
saying the kid here, and it's just like, what do we do?
Right. Right.
So that was definitely interesting for me. But yeah, that's how it started, and I just kept growing and just searching for more information. And now, similar to what you're saying, like, this is my passion, this is my space. Like, it's not really work for me.
Right.
It's just like something natural I'm doing. Whether I get paid or not get paid, if I don't get make it big. It don't really matter. I just naturally just love doing this because I
Right.
can see the effects when I reach out to other men and then work with them and let them know that, hey, you are more than what society or what your family put a label on you. You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? You do so
Absolutely.
much more. So you said that you have been a father, a co-parenting for 15 years,
Hmm.
and your son is 15.
Hmm.
So what happened that started everything? Usually, like, I was with my girl for a couple of years. Is it like y'all just met or y'all knew each other? Can you tell me a little more how?
Wow. We dated, my son's mother and I, we dated for a little bit. And you know, it was a whirlwind. It was up just as quickly as it went up, It
Okay.
kind of leveled out for a bit, and then it was just started to come down, and it was like, okay, we're at that point where it's like, and I'm sure some people have probably experienced that, when you realize and recognize, and I was too young, and I was too young, I was
How
young.
old were you, Fleming?
I was 28 at the time. I was 28. Well, actually, no, it's 20. Yeah, I was 28 at the time.
Okay.
Well, it's between 27 and 28. I was 28 when I found out that she was pregnant with our son, and but and you've been in a relationship where it's like that it's over, but you just ain't verbalized
Of
that
course.
it's done, and you haven't
Right.
put the action in place. Like that's the one thing that I would tell any man, period, any brother. If you were dating a woman and you know that it's not, I don't care how good the sex is, right? But if you in your mind, like, in your mind that you don't really want nothing with this person, you know, step away. It's tough, it's tough because we
Very.
what I'm saying, like, we I mean, let's keep it winding. We think with our dicks a lot, what I'm saying,
Of
especially
course.
when you're young, what I'm saying, when you're young, that's what you're thinking with. And that's what I was young, I was thinking, I was like, okay, yeah, but the sex is good though. I mean, and it's not a whole lot of pressure. Like, I'm not, like, I don't have to do too much, you know I can still go do me.
Got that in house.
You know what I'm saying? And every now and again, if I need to pick it up, like, it's still there.
Right.
But I knew that our relationship wasn't where it is that I wanted to be.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, I had plans, because, like I said, I'm a designer, so I had my portfolio set. I was getting ready to send copies of my portfolio out to, like, design firms in London, because I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try my hand overseas, go see what's popping,
Right.
um, and I'll never forget, man. Hitch was in the theaters, um, I get to her house to pick her up, you know, and she's just sitting on the couch with the leg folded, giving me the death stare look, and I'm like, "What's the problem?" She was like,
Right.
and I was like, "Oh, damn, really?" Like, and I sat there and thought about it. I was just like, "Oh, like, okay." Yeah, man, and that but I can honestly say if I had not have made the decision to move forward with her on in that journey, I don't know if I would have became a dad. To be honest with you,
Okay.
seriously. Yeah.
Was this out there in Maryland or
Yep.
Oakland?
Yep.
Oh,
No, Maryland.
Maryland.
Yeah, yep.
Okay. And you say
Yep.
you guys knew each other for a while, right?
Yeah, we knew each other for a while. Definitely a little bit because I got here in April of '03. I think I met her. It was like June. And so we dated from from '03 through '04.
Okay.
And you know uh,
Was
yeah.
it was it just dating or was it a real relationship?
It was definitely a real relationship. I mean, it was
Okay.
yeah, no, it was definitely a real relationship. Even lived together for a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it was definitely a real relationship. But it just like some relations do, man. Like it just fizzled. Just fizzled out.
What is it that you seen? During the time you guys are, obviously having a good time together. Where what is it that he's like, man, something seems different.
You know what it is, and again, in keeping it 100. I
Yeah.
think that there are. I think it was the whole the thing of trying to change me at that time.
Right.
You know, I've seen a lot of women do it. You think a guy is cool, see a dude, they like
Right.
his potential, but somewhere in the back of their mind it'd be that lingering thought. But I need to change just a few things.
Okay.
It's like and came in, and that became part of it, and I was just like, "Ooh, yeah, no, I'm a little bit too headstrong for that."
All
We're
right. So
not
what was
doing
the
that,
first one that you seen? It's like
Um,
she said to try to change. Was it like subtle? Or it's like, hey, I love what you do. Have you ever thought about
Honestly, you know what?
this or
The biggest thing that stands out to me is so like I said, from Cali. I'm an only child, but I tell people I'm an only child, but I got 9 siblings. Like, and that's
okay,
all, and that's my partners. And we roll we die hard for one another. Like that's just what it is. So
right,
back then, we was our annual guide trip was heading down to Bayou Classic in New Orleans.
nice,
For the Southern what was it Grambling versus Southern, right? Yeah.
yeah.
So never
I,
went
s-
to the game.
I
Never
still
went
need.
to
I
right,
still need to
right,
go.
right. Like like never went for the game. Nah, we went for
Right,
for the activities and the festivities.
of course, of course.
Um, so this particular year, I was like, well, hey, like I'm heading down to for Bayou Classic. And she was like, well, when is that? I was like, it's Thanksgiving weekend. Yeah, but that's the time for family. Well, yeah, I'm going to hang out with my brothers. That's my family. And in my head, I'm like, you getting Christmas and New Year's. So really, you getting 2 out of 3. Oh, I'm gonna take this. Like, please
Right.
understand. Like, I'm not going.
Hmm.
Um, and that was like the biggest thing because it's like above anything else, like I'm big on family. And I'm
Right.
big on family probably primarily because I mean I'm like I said I got a last name that literally is attached to a very large family that I know very little about you know.
Okay.
So for me,
What's
my
your last name?
Fleming. Fleming
Oh,
is
okay. Oh,
yeah.
that's it. Okay. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
first name, last name.
No, absolutely. But yeah, no, Fleming is the last name. But
Okay.
I'm attached large more so to my extended family. You
Okay.
know, they've been there.
Right.
Been there. Um, and I don't deal well with someone telling me that I can't go and hang out with my family. You know,
Mm,
like
right.
I tell people, I say, look, this motherfucker could call me and be like, bro, I'm in Timbuktu and like need some assistance. I'm getting there somehow. I'm gonna get there. And that's
Okay.
just what it is. And I would never put anyone else in that position. Like, oh, pick me over family. Like, nah, like if that's what you got, if that's your annual thing, like with your folks and stuff, then go do it. Go have fun.
Right.
And so that became like like for me, it was just like, yeah, I'm not gonna deal with that, you know. So I mean, I definitely like take full responsibility. It was me, Like it could have been. I'm sure somebody probably could have, made a adjustment or compromise, and stuck it out. But yeah, it just, and it's funny that we would even have that because, um,
Mhm.
what was it? I think it was actually year, yeah, 20 early part of 2020. I remember my son and I got into a conversation, rather, you know, somewhat debate. I mean, he's coming into the age, he feeling himself,
Right, right,
Um,
right.
and I actually had to apologize, man. You know,
Really?
yeah, yeah. I apologized to my son, man, and he was like, "What are you apologizing for, Dad?" And I said, "I put you in this situation." You know, like real talk. As the parent, as the father, I put you in this situation. I'm
Why do
sorry.
you say that?
Because he was feeling some kind of way about it.
About
About
which
just
part?
about having his parents in two different places, you know.
Okay.
And honestly, I totally understood. I totally understood his feelings because I went through it. You know, had
Mhm.
that moment where it is it. My father was in Louisiana. Me and my mom were in California. You
Right,
know, as an only child, between two people, you go through that thinking like, like, well, damn, is it me? You know,
right. Of
out of
course.
reason. Um, my relationship. Heard you mention as far as like, you not knowing, no, you didn't know your dad, or it wasn't around.
Oh, my dad wasn't around.
Okay,
He was a part time. Then he couldn't do the part time. Then it was just
right.
like he just
Then trying to
disappeared
take
for a
right,
little bit and then pop back up like, "Hey, I'm here."
right. And my dad and I went through that as well. And honestly, my father passed in 2016, and honestly, it
I'm sorry to hear
was.
that, bro.
I appreciate that, bro.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's a journey, man. I will say, I don't. Is your dad still alive?
Yeah, my dad's still alive. Yeah.
Reach out, man.
Oh yeah, we
Yeah,
definitely have a better
yeah.
communication now.
Okay, good,
Even
good.
though you with wisdom or with age, sometimes you think comes wisdom, but sometimes the age just comes.
I had to come to the understanding that it helps to look at what your dad went through with his dad.
Right,
And when I stopped and took a look at that and I realized what that was, it helped me to understand a little bit better as until I couldn't put a higher, my expectation on him because it wasn't given to him. Like he wasn't taught
mhm,
that. You know,
exactly.
he didn't see that.
Right,
So from that standpoint, like, we got to a really really good place, and I'm so thankful that we did, because it like I could not, like, I mean, there's days now where I sit there, like, even in going through the whole spiel with my son, and like, us not talking for a couple of days, like, or dealing with his attitude on some things. Like, there's so many times where I wish I could pick the phone and just call my dad, and just had that
right.
conversation. You know what I'm saying? And
Just for
especially,
some type of guidance, or just
exactly. Oh, absolutely,
right,
absolutely. Like,
right.
like it was, and it's so funny because it's something. Because you have what? You have a son or a daughter?
I got all boys. I got a 9-year-old and I
Okay,
have twins, 3-year-old
okay, okay.
twins.
All right. Congratulations on that.
Thank you, thank you,
Congratulations. Yeah.
appreciate it.
Like I would love to say that you're gonna be exempt, but you're not. You're gonna go through the teenage years. Cause I thought I was exempt. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I thought I was gonna say, you know what, I'm doing all this the right way.
Right,
And when my son finally was just like, I'm over here and I'm not, like, I'm not calling. I called, like, I leaned on my tribe, and I called
right,
up everybody, and I was like, yo, like, can you believe da 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 da? And when these
right,
jokers started laughing at me, and I was like, wait a minute, why is you laughing at me? Like, I'm calling you and telling you, like, from my heart, and they was like, man, thought you was exempt, huh? Like, yeah, we all go through that, man. Like, we
right,
all, like, and when I thought about it, and I had to think back, and I thought back to what it is that I did, you know
right.
And I instantly, man, I got on my knees and I prayed and I was like, Lord, I said, I don't know what your communication system is up in heaven. Got access to my father in any which way, shape, or form, tell him I'm sorry. You
Right.
know, because I know for sure on there were definitely at least three times where we didn't talk for like 3 years straight.
Right.
Period. You know, and and I was like, if this level of hurt that I'm feeling as a dad is anything remotely close to what my dad felt, bro, I don't wish that on nobody at all. You know, um, and so in that, but at the same time, swinging back to the apology, um, I made a choice. You know, I made a choice not to be with my son's mother. I made that
Right.
choice. You
Right.
know, um,
Do you think back to that? Do you think like for the? I mean, because you started it started off with the trip. Do you think back to like, man, I could have went on another trip and
you
stayed?
know what? I know. I think that I think I looked at the whole overall situation. I didn't think in my head at the time. I was like, much like you said, I didn't. I the longest relationship I was in was my marriage. By far, because
Okay.
I got married after that. You know, um,
Are you in a relationship right now? Or are you?
hmm, nope,
No. Okay.
nope, yep. Got finalized my divorce last year. Yep. So,
Mm,
yep. Um, but I had to learn what it was to be in a relationship with someone.
right.
And in my head at the time, as crazy as it sounds, I could not fathom learning how to be in a relationship and at the same time learning how to be a dad. And simply
Mm,
that was
right.
because of much like you, what it is that I went through, as far as
Hmm.
with my dad not being around. So the trauma of that situation to me was I'll get another girl. you know, like that was the I mean that was my thinking. Like, like I'll okay, we're not good. But I just, my whole thing was I just really wanted to be the best dad I could be.
Right.
I wanted to be opposite of what it was that I had,
Right.
you know. And that became my focus more so than the factor of being in a relationship with my son's mother, you
Right.
know.
So,
And
oh, go ahead. Go
and,
ahead.
yeah, no, but it was definitely like, because we did have our moments where we argued,
Hmm.
and for the life of me, I was like, I don't want if this is how it is that we are now, like I don't want that. I don't want my son to grow up seeing us argue, you
Right.
know. So in my head, it was like, okay, well, I'll just remove myself from this piece. I compartmentalized like crazy. So I was like, I'll remove myself from this, but I'll still be very much heavily invested in this, which is, being a dad. And to me, that was the most important.
Right.
So, yeah.
So going back to the relationship, I know there was a start. The start was what are some other things? Oh, my camera done. Can you hear me still?
Yep.
All right. What are some other things that happened after that? Or that was that start or was that one thing that started both the camel's back and then after he went from the trip, he's like, no, I'm kind of good at this one.
It was, well, no, even after the trip, we still were hanging out. That was the thing. Like we were still hanging out.
Like still in a relationship
Um,
at that point?
sort of, kind of. It was,
Okay.
it wasn't. The rose colored glasses were off, so it wasn't like, it wasn't the whirlwind. It wasn't like, I'm definitely like head over heels. It was more like, you busy? I'm not busy. Let's go hang out.
Right.
you know. If I'm busy, like, I hit you up later. That's it was more like that, and I can remember as clear as day. I got the phone
Right.
call. It was holiday season. She was working for some company. They were having a holiday party, and she was like, "Hey, you want to come to this holiday party with me?" Sure. Open bar. Right. Let's do it.
Right.
Man, look here. Don't do open bar. Don't do open bar holiday. Okay, so, okay, you know, so yeah, that was that night, and 2 months later, here we were, having this conversation about
Right.
this little joker, so
Okay.
yeah.
And then so when you guys had the conversation and said, "Hey, I'm pregnant," did you like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stay, or let's start doing a relationship, or it's kind of like, cool, you know, there's a baby here, but I'm still over here, or what was actually going through your head at that time?
Um, I was in it. No, we definitely we continued, she had she gotten her place.
In a relationship, or were you guys just still cool? Just, hey, I hit you up, I hit me up, or
It was in a limbo. I
just
can't
limbo?
but yeah, it was in a limbo. I can't
Okay.
necessarily say what it was. It wasn't it wasn't a relationship, but it wasn't not a relationship. It was just in this very just large gray area,
Relationship, a relationship,
basically.
a
Right, right,
relationship.
right. But it was, you know, definitely was there. I mean, we had the appointments. She had a summer pregnancy. Her AC went out in the car. I gave her my car. I'm driving her car until we got in the
Right.
fix. Like it wasn't. It was never a point of where I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I'm just not that type of dude. So. Um, and we was, we definitely there for like we had the whole conversation. I never forget because I we went to it was one appointment that we went to in the doctor, and he was like, well, because she had gestational diabetes,
Okay.
and the doctor was like, well, we're gonna have to induce the labor, and she was like, okay. So he was like, well, you can come in on, when was it, like, this how many days in August? Is like 30? Is it 30 or 31? I think it's 30. But anyway, they were like, well, you can come in on the 29th, and then baby should be born on like the 30th. And I looked and I was like, no, because the initial date that they gave us was September 1st, was September 2nd,
Okay.
and my birthday's in September. You know,
Same here, Virgo.
yeah, Virgo is all day. You know what I'm saying? So so for me, I was just like, nah, like I need my son to be in September, bro. Like,
Come on
nah.
now. You already
So
know.
right, so she's looking at me and I'm looking at her like. Mm-mm. so she just looked. She was like, okay, fine. She's like, I was like, so we'll come in the last day of August. And then my son can be born on September 1st. Boom. Let's go.
Nice. My son
You
is
know.
born on September 22nd,
Okay.
the
That's what's
last
up.
day, right? Cut off right there, right?
Right. Cut off. Right. Right. So yeah. So so I was like, so yes, I was 28 when my son was born, and 17 days later, man, because I'm on the 18th. 17 days later, I turned 29.
From
And that was
29.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So now that you had the conversation with your son and going back, is there anything that you thought about you could have done differently?
Which part?
Where you apologize? It's just like, just for everybody who watches this, younger generation, stuff like that, other cats that might hear your story. It's just like, all right, I met somebody who was kind of in a relationship,
Right.
what I'm
Right.
saying, and then as a baby, it's just like, you know, the old school generation is like, if you're a man, you better stay with that woman now. Man, had a baby, but it's just like,
Man, look here.
but we're educating them now. We're telling them,
No, absolutely, absolutely. So it's funny that you would ask that question because
yeah,
my grandfather and I are extremely close. That's my dude.
nice.
And my grandfather has had his challenges, as far as when it came to relationships.
Okay.
And I remember when he called me and he said, well, you gonna marry this woman? Da, da, da. And I was just like, I'm sorry, come again? And he was like, you gonna marry this woman? I'm like, did
You
you
can
really?
hardly hear.
Like, I mean, and for the first time, like, I mean, it was it was like elephantitis of the nuts, like for real. Like I literally, I was like, like, Grandpa, are you really asking me this question? Like, don't you
Right.
got, like, don't you got two, like, out of, you know what I'm saying? Like,
And I
did
hate
you,
that too.
and he was like, well, boy, da-da-da. I was like, hey, 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 look, I love you, and I respect you highly.
Right.
This is my decision.
Exactly.
Let me do what I'm gonna do. You
Yes,
know,
sir.
if I decide, sure. If I don't, I'll deal with it. You know, and again, in that whole aspect of like people trying to tell you what to do, and it was like, and my rebellious spirit was just like, nope, not, not doing that. No, you know. But I will say that what it is that I the going through custody case, um, you know, having separate, having joint birthday parties, and you know hoping that everybody act right, you know.
Right.
Um,
She got brothers?
Nah, nope.
Oh, okay.
Siblings, sister. Yeah,
Whew.
yeah, yeah. But but it's but even then, like my when you have a custody case, I will say this: when you and
Okay.
here's the reason I'm bringing it back to the podcast. Here's the reason why it's so important to have these conversations and really just sort of kind of work it all out beforehand. The biggest eye opener for me was going to co-parenting class. That was the biggest eye opener.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, bruh. When I tell you the amount of people that are so petty, that are so like hell bent on trying to make you suffer because they're mad at you. Like some of the things I sat and watched sitting in these several classes I had to go to, I
Hmm.
could never I was like, I don't ever want to be that person.
Right.
Like this woman is literally sitting here talking about like how she gets mad because she sends her two kids with their dad, and then like the dad, like the kids that come back, and like the clothes are all jumped in the bag and they're dirty. Like, who in the world sends their children back with dirty clothes? Like, you ain't got no washer and dryer, bro. You couldn't have took care of that. But it's literally, it's being vindictive, you
Hmm.
know. And that was like the big, like, I'm not a vindictive person as it is anyway, but that was definitely the biggest eye opener for me because I was like, you know what? I'm always gonna keep the focus on this kid, you know,
Right.
like the death of our physical intimacy doesn't mean that we have to allow our mental or emotional intimacy to die because all of that is vested in our son, you know. So when we deal with that, it's like hey, let's we didn't work out. It is what it is. I can't turn back the hands of time. What does
Right.
exist now is this young man that we play a part in raising and making sure that when his time comes and we have to send him off into the world, that he's gonna have all of the stuff that he needs to have emotionally, mentally, what I'm saying, spiritually,
Right.
but for him to be able to navigate in this world, you know,
Makes
and
sense.
yeah, and it's like if we're not, while it is that you may not be with that person, does not take away from the factor of your responsibility with that person, you know. And that would be my one thing that I would say to anybody, both woman and man. I mean, definitely, like like last night on the call, on Clubhouse, like we were having a conversation, and I posed a question that clearly seemed real difficult for a couple of people because
Ooh, okay.
I had heard a few people, and they were like, oh well, I'm a single mother and da 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 blah blah blah. And I just asked the question. I was like, okay. I said, this is a question to everybody. I said, but especially the women. If the father is actually involved, whether it is 10% to 50% to 80%,
Okay.
how do you actually classify yourself as a single parent?
Mm.
And folks got quiet. I mean, folks got quiet, and I mean, a few people were like hitting the button. I was like, "Oh," I said, "Okay, this is really a good question." I said, 'cause some of y'all are really want to toss it out there, and they gave their answers and stuff, and I was appreciative of the answers and definitely agreed with some of the viewpoints. But I told them point blank, I said, no different than because again, I'm looking at it through the lens of a brother who has gone through court. The biggest thing that I hate hearing is a factor of custodial versus non-custodial.
Okay.
Because what you are instantly telling me in that moment that I matter less, but yet I'm half of the reason why what we're talking about even exists.
Mm. Right.
You know? So from that standpoint, it's like you can instantly, depending on that might be a trigger for someone. Who wants to be thought of as less?
I agree. So you check as custodial. What's that mean?
So in court, custodial versus non-custodial. What that means is that the custodial parent is the person who is listed as the primary residency where your child resides at primarily, you
Okay.
know, and then the person who is technically speaking the part-time parent, right, becomes the non-custodial,
Right.
you
Okay.
know, because your child doesn't stay with you X amount of time, which is
Hmm.
why it's so important to, hence the reason why, like, we're really pushing the envelope of like understanding the laws in your state when it comes to co-parenting, understanding the laws, the rights that you have. We talked on the fact that in a lot of states, you have it to where you have sometimes women who will give birth to a child and they think that just because they're the mom that they have instant full custody,
Right.
which is not the case. You actually have to file that paperwork and have it stated on documentation that you have full custody. The crazy thing about it is that if you don't do it and the father does, then that's where it is you get into to the muckiness, because now it's like, okay, well, it's saying that you
Right.
got full custody. Well, that's because I filed.
Ooh. And where can you look this information up to say if someone had to do and just protect themselves?
So basically, you can every any state where it is, or because I so I live in Maryland, right?
Right.
I live in Maryland, but I live in Montgomery County of Maryland.
Okay.
So that's different from the next county over. So basically, check wherever it is you live at. If it's divided up by counties, or like Louisiana's divided up by parishes.
Okay.
But check your area. Check your area. Check your local court. There is check with child support services. Child support services will definitely have that information for you, or have information to where it is that you can get to. Usually, they have for child services. It's literally just that. It's services provided for information pertaining to children. You know, so you can usually they sometimes offer connectivity to lawyers to where you can get free advice. Depending on your situation. But you just pretty much, I mean, power of the internet, man. You can Google it. So whatever your state is,
Okay.
uh, go to your government website. Type it in, child support, or child services, and should get a whole listing of whatever it is you need to find.
Great,
So
man. That's a great starting point, man. Let me see. So when your grandfather called you, did about the marriage, was there ever a thought of make going and making it work for the child, or that's a never an option for you? Like, I got
the
the
thought crossed my
kid.
mind. The thought crossed my
Question.
mind. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it crossed my mind. I didn't push that button.
And you push the button.
I didn't push that button.
Do you wish you would have pushed the button?
I think probably early on, there were times where I did early
Or
on.
did?
Yeah.
What was it that went through your life? I mean, that you seen is like, dang, is it like is it the holidays, or is it like a birthday party, or is like does something feel good, or is just like, man, I might.
Honestly, it was sitting at the child support services office. Child support services office.
Right.
And going over the books, doing the numbers, because it's a numbers game. It's a numbers
Hmm.
game. Um, when it comes down to child support, in most cases, child support will definitely enforce you to place your child on your insurance. Child support will definitely enforce the factor of you paying X amount of dollars. You
Right.
know, what child support will not enforce, child support is not going to enforce that you spend X amount of time with your child. Because what happens is that in that
Hmm.
in that moment, the more time you have with your child, the less you have to pay.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Which is why you have situations where guys who find that out, they will go back, and some guys will bullshit. I ain't gonna lie to you. Some guys will bullshit and basically, try to finagle the numbers just so that they could reduce what they paying. Or they'll lie and be like, oh, they're only gaining X amount, or some may even take a less paying job, you know, because it's based off of your finances and how much it is that you make versus what it is that the custodial parent is making, you know. And when I sat there, I was just like, at the time my child support payments were literally $699, just a dollar less than 700, right?
Dollar leg. God dog.
You know, and I sat there and in my head I was just like, that's a card note for some people,
It is.
you know. And I remember saying to my lawyer, I said, that's a card note for some people. I was like, and the only difference between me and them, I said, is that they have the joy of either going looking in their garage or looking out of their living room window and seeing exactly daily where it is that $699 is going to.
Right.
And I don't. And I don't. You know,
Right.
at that time I was like, I was every other weekend. That was when I saw where it is that my $699 was going to. And it was in those moments where it was just like, damn, okay, should I have pushed that button? Should I go back? Should I go ahead and try and sweet talk this and make it work? And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. You know.
See.
And that was just the choice, you know.
Right. We all have
Here's
them.
the reason, right? Here's the reason why, fast forward, sitting there having that in-depth conversation with my son,
Right.
and had to just go ahead and say, like, like, my bad, man. I apologize, because this situation is, I apologize for the part that I played in putting you in this situation,
Right.
because that was not my intent. It was not my I thought that I had a different expectation of how it was, or a different vision on how it was that I thought things were going to go, and it didn't go that way. So here we are, you know here we are.
Father should. Man, thank you for sharing. I appreciate you just jumping on
Yeah,
here, man.
no problem, bro.
Man, thank you. Man,
No, absolutely, bro, absolutely. This was fun, so I appreciate that. I
yeah,
appreciate.
it's super dope, man. I think I said, just want to capture these moments, man, cause so we can at least point man to the right direction to get some information. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
no, absolutely,
It's just
absolutely.
like we might not have all the answers, but I wish you can be like, man, go check this out. Because just talking about it, I'm pretty sure someone can take a gold nugget and be like, oh man, I
Yeah,
remember Fleming said that. You know what I'm saying?
right,
You know what I'm saying? I did the woot woot the woot. But the Thurston said that, and I'm gonna just look at
right,
things differently. You know what I'm
right,
saying?
right. And I would, and honestly, by all means, this is like I said, we getting ready to launch season 2 on the 21st of this month. The 22nd actually marks our 1 year anniversary.
Okay.
Yeah, 1 year anniversary of the podcast.
Okay.
So definitely do that. But the whole entire season 2, man, is honestly geared toward co-parenting. Like
Co-parenting.
85 to 90% of this season is geared toward co-parenting. So we got therapists coming on, we got counselors
Nice.
coming on, because I wanted to be able to tell, like I tell people, I'm 44 years old. right?
Okay, I will ask you that, but
Yeah,
44.
yeah,
Okay.
I'm 44, and I tell people, look, I've been someone's son for 44 years.
Right.
I've only been a dad for 15. So my experience level is based on that of being someone's child, and I know wholeheartedly like that pain, those struggles, those question marks that you have, as a kid, because I went through it. So when my son went through it, it was just like I just gave him a hug, and I was just like, everything that you go through in life ultimately will prepare you for something else that comes later on, you know. So if I had not of gone through what I went through with my parents, it
Hmm.
put me in a position to understand exactly what he was feeling in that moment, you know. And we were able to connect in a way that was just dope. It's dope. So yeah. So I definitely, by all means, man, like, for anyone listening, please pop on over to fathershould.org.
Yes.
Yeah, fathershould.org, and check us
Yes,
out.
please.
You can hear us on any major listening streaming, podcast streaming avenues, because that's where we at, so we on all the majors.
Okay. And is
Yeah.
your partner that does your co-host, is that someone that you are in a relationship, or that's just a co-host?
No, she's just my co-host. She's just my co-host. She is at, she is because, fathers have daughters too.
Right,
Fathers
that's
have
true.
daughters too, so it was I I I affectionately refer to her as a decoder, because she is able to basically take what it is that we talk about, what I'm saying,
Hmm.
as men, and she's able to translate it for ladies to understand, and that's why I say I'm
Nice. We need
thankful.
that.
We do need that,
We need that.
we speak foreign languages, so it's like, she's able to, like, it's the type of questions or the way that she'll structure a question that had, like, well, sometimes to me I'll be like, damn, I ain't even, all right, so I now I gotta go think about that, or all right, now I gotta answer it this way, and she's like, okay, cool. Now I have a better understanding,
Right.
and ultimately that's exactly what we push, man, just to really have a better understanding as two people in this situation, So so yeah, I'm thankful for her, man. Like, seriously, every day. So, but at the same time, like, we talk every day, like we talk every day,
Okay.
talking about this, talking about topics, we talk with other people, it's like I said earlier, when you find your purpose, your sense of purpose, and really being able to tap into that and hone into that, it's like, you make it a point. I can say honestly, as a result of being on Clubhouse, I just want to shake them brothers' hands, like the creators of it. I just want to shake their hands because they have
Oh yeah, I'm on stock.
right, exactly,
You know what I'm
right.
saying?
Which actually their stock is actually going for like 70 something dollars a share right now. So yeah,
You're looking, bro. I'm gonna go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. So
And-
just a FYI, yeah, the stock is going for like 70 something shares right now. So I would definitely say get up on that, because I know probably once they fine tune this and it opens up and it's actually available on Android and bruh, yeah, yeah,
Floodgates. Okay,
yeah.
I got to look that up. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it's kind of so for someone that you meet, a young man, just find out, he got someone pregnant. What would be some words of advice that you would give to someone?
Um, be clear on what you want.
Okay.
Sit and take the time. Figure out what. Sit and take the time and figure out what you want, and then sit down and have the conversation with your child's mother, and see what she wants, and then y'all sit and and figure out what is the best course of action. You know, I can't simply say that everyone is, I've seen some people that have definitely gotten married because it was a child,
Right.
and, and it's worked. I'm not gonna say that it doesn't. It's
Right.
worked, you
Hmm.
know. But I think any relationship, friendships, situationships, you know, marriages, entanglements. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It works when it is that you communicate. Effective communication is key.
Is key.
Yeah, yeah.
So so
That would be my number one piece of advice. You
one
know.
thing, one last thing here.
Yeah.
So when do you say, hell, I can't have sex no more? Is it like, okay, I'm dating somebody, or is it like you're dating somebody, or it kind of that's the biggest one that I hear when co-parenting. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, man, I still want to hit. You know what I'm saying? Or it's just like, man, see, I seen her at the kid's birthday party. She had them shorts on. You know what I'm saying? She did that thing. The kid went to sleep. You know, the birthday party was in the daytime. After that, it's an adult party. We sipping, open bar.
You know what?
Or do you draw the line?
For me, I drew a line. I had to
But when
draw.
did you draw the line?
I drew the line. Hmm.
Keep it funky now, baby. Keep it funky.
No, no, like I mean, it's look. I mean, if my phone ring tomorrow, you know, what I'm saying, or a couple of days from now, I'd be like, damn Thurston, see, you know, you know,
That means you have a hit podcast right there.
right, no, absolutely. Throughout the course of the 9 months, man, like seriously, it happened only once. It
Yeah,
happened once during the pregnancy, and it just it just didn't seem right. Like,
right,
yeah, it just didn't seem right. Your body knows, man. Like your body
right,
knows says
right.
that information. We ignore it half the time. Let's keep
Of
it 100.
course.
We
Right.
ignore
Come
it
on,
like
soldier, let's go.
right. You know what I'm
Still
saying?
on the
So
war.
like, yeah, but in that, yeah, it was like after that, I was just like, yeah, I'm not going there again. Not so didn't you know
Dope.
didn't you find other avenues, you know. All I'm saying, you find other avenues, you know.
I like that.
That's what there was, you know. So yeah, yeah, yeah,
Man, well, hey, Fleming, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please,
yeah.
I
No
got the link.
problem.
I'm going to be dropping them here.
Okay,
Please go to Father Should. Check my man Fleming. I'm going to have all the description, the links, how to get in contact with him about co
absolutely,
parenting. Great, great brother. We're looking to do probably a part two, as you
absolutely.
circle
Let's make it
back and go
happen.
back around, man. Thank you for the
Yeah,
second time of today, brother.
no problem,
Take
man.
care.
All
Salute.
right, you too. Salute.